Hey everyone, me Kevin here. It's your Stock Doc, and we've got to talk about the lockdowns happening in Germany and what this could mean for the United States. Are we ever going to expect these sorts of lockdowns or mandates in the United States? We just heard Joe Biden say no, but could that U-turn? The answer to that in this video and what it could mean for some of our investments. But first, you might not know this, I was born in Germany, my entire family is German, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of drama going on in Germany. This is despite the fact that Germany is actually more fully vaccinated than the United States. According to Our World in Data, 68.6% of Germany is fully vaccinated. That compares to just 59.6% of Americans that are fully vaccinated. This means that Germany is 15% ahead of us in terms of vaccinations, yet is now heading into a substantial lockdown for those unvaccinated. Germany is calling their surge in COVID cases a pandemic of the unvaccinated. This comes despite the fact that a lot of folks believe that the Omicron variant could have arisen in individuals who were vaccinated. We knew that 4 people from Botswana had the Pfizer vaccine. They caught it. We knew people in 2 people, at least in Shanghai, had the new Omicron variant, and they were Pfizer vaccinated. And so there are a lot of concerns that, well, wait a minute, the new variant might not be that, we might not be... What good is the vaccine going to do for us if you could still get the Omicron? This is, of course, where a lot of folks are responding, saying, don't worry, still get the booster, still get vaccinated, because your bigger fear is Delta or a different form of COVID, whereas the Omicron variant so far is indicating potentially less severe symptoms. And so individuals are still being encouraged to get vaccinated. But what's happening here in Germany? Let's talk about that and talk about how this could affect America. So first of all, Germany and their COVID cases are going through the absolute roof. In fact, all you have to do is do a quick little Google for German COVID cases, and this is what you can see here. We are at ridiculous all-time highs. I mean, we are more than double the high that we had at any other point during this pandemic. We're at 75,000 cases a day. Previously, we had highs around 25,000, so 25 to 33,000. So it gets you a little bit more than double from the tippy top of December of 2020. And we're just now getting into December of 2021. So this is definitely creating a lot of nervousness. You're seeing the same thing over in the Netherlands. You're seeing the same thing over in Austria, which has also announced a partial lockdown. These are pretty strong surges. Now, the lockdown in Austria has been attributed to starting to show a little bit of a rotation, and this is why a lot of folks are wondering, could we see pain like this, any kind of lockdown pain in the United States, if we end up getting a surge in COVID, which if we look right now, we're not really seeing a big surge right now. We had our Delta surge over here at the end of July and into August, beginning of September. But so far, we've been pretty blessed in the United States that COVID cases are mostly heading down, even though we are starting to see some hot spots in various different areas. Obviously, the contagiousness of Omicron is certainly making folks a little bit more nervous. But let's understand a little bit more about this mandate or this lockdown in Germany. The new restrictions in Germany mean that people who are unvaccinated are only eligible to meet 2 people from other households, and that unvaccinated folks will literally not be able to go to concerts, restaurants, stores, malls, theaters, or really anything unless they're vaccinated. They'll be able to go to the grocery store and a pharmacy, but that's it. Then, they're also imposing rules that bars and nightclubs will be required to shut down if an area has high infection rates, regardless of whether people are vaccinated or not. Greece is already requiring mandatory vaccines in those over 60. Austria plans to make vaccines mandatory in February. Germany might follow in this footsteps, or in the footsteps of Austria. Europe in general, the European central bloc, is even considering some form of larger vaccine mandate. But in the meantime, these lockdowns are something to pay attention to because we're having big issues in Europe. And even though Joe Biden just announced that we're going to require 1-day PCR tests, that is, you have to take a PCR test 1 day before internationally traveling to get into the United States, you can still bring COVID in because the false negative rate of the test is relatively high within the first 1 to 5 days that you actually have COVID. This creates issues because if you get tested after being exposed to COVID and you have COVID, you could test negative and bring it into the country, right? For potentially 2 or 3 days where you're in this weird void where your tests are going to come back negative, but you actually do have COVID. That's a problem. Now, in-home tests are helping, but what does this potential lockdown mean for the United States and travel stocks in the United States, recovery stocks in the United States? So far, Not much. In fact, recovery stocks have surged after Joe Biden mentioned no mandates and no lockdowns, or no more mandates and no lockdowns in the United States, no more restrictions in the United States, restrictions on international travel. But so far, we're not seeing a pressing need for lockdowns in the United States, which I think is why recovery stocks are actually rebounding from some of the lows that we've fallen to after the discovery of the Omicron variant. I actually continue to believe that there's an opportunity to swing trade some of the recovery stocks here in America, but we're going to want to see, this is exactly what I'd recommend you pay attention to if you're going to play these sorts of swing trades, is make sure you pay attention to Germany and hope and pray that what's happening in Austria, that is their lockdowns actually working. Okay, this isn't loading, so let's try this here. There we go, Austria. With their lockdowns actually apparently working and getting to an inflection point in cases. You can see the inflection point very clearly here in the chart. You want to see that happen in the Netherlands. You want to see that happen in Germany. You want to see that happen throughout the European or the Eurozone, really. So that way, at the same time, we hope that our cases will stay low in the United States. As long as this is the case, as long as we continue to relatively trend down here in the United States, even though we've had a recent little spike here on the day, we're still trending down. As long as this remains the case, I'm optimistic for recovery stocks. We get a U-turn here. Obviously, it's going to hurt. I don't believe these sorts of lockdowns of the unvaccinated are really going to spread broadly in the United States, maybe based on sort of local requirements. And look at Los Angeles, for example. Los Angeles has a COVID vaccine passport. They have a safe pass ordinance. And this is, people really say this is one of the strictest mandates or restrictions that we have throughout the entire country. And basically, if you can't prove that you are fully vaccinated, you have a very, very, very difficult time going anywhere. That includes restaurants, gyms, entertainment, rec facilities, personal care establishments. You got to be fully vaccinated in Los Angeles. So Los Angeles has definitely made it very difficult to kind of get around without being fully vaccinated. I do think, though, and I know, look, I'm a fan of choice, and I think a lot of people are a fan of choice, but if you are not vaccinated, I do think that these mandates do lead a lot of people to decide, you know what, I'm tired of the hassle, let me just get vaccinated. But I want to hear from you. What do you think? Does the fact that we have these mandates in Europe, the fact that you can't travel to Canada unless you're vaccinated, the fact that you can't get around in Los Angeles, if these sorts of mandates came to you, would you consider getting vaccinated if you're not vaccinated? Or no way, Jose, would you ever consider getting vaccinated? Curious to see what everybody thinks in the comments on that one. But do pay attention to Germany and Austria. This could lead to continued pain, especially for indebted companies like Carnival Cruise Lines. Dave & Buster's, another one. Obviously, the international airlines have the most at risk. I'm personally not playing the airlines as a recovery play. I'm playing a little bit of a recovery play in payment processors like Visa, but then also in Carnival Cruise Lines, open to playing Dave & Buster's a little bit. Those are sort of my COVID plays. But I want to be monitoring these on almost a day-to-day basis, take some profits where I can, where there's some rebound momentum, get out of there, and then get into my longs, which are usually higher margin, higher growth companies that I'm much more bullish on for the very long term, where I don't have to be so worried about an overwhelming amount of debt at a certain company. So there you have it. That's my perspective. Thank you so much for watching, and folks, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks again. Bye.